What's up, y'all? So I was just talking about universal basic income, and I feel like talking about it again. And I lost my marker for my whiteboard. Otherwise, I would be on the whiteboard talking about this. So we're just gonna get a general overview while I'm sitting out here. The sun's going down. It's a beautiful day. So universal basic income. It's obviously a proposed solution for the coming loss of jobs due to automation in various industrial markets, whatever. A lot of people are going to be out of jobs. They're going to need something to get by. A lot of people say this is like a socialist thing. They're saying, that's socialism. People just they almost say it's like rations. You know what I mean? From an economy or from the government. Okay, well, if you take a look at the government as it stands, the current system, okay, what does it do? How does it function? Look at that. I say it's already like a business, okay? It has a source of revenue, which is taxes, okay? And then the taxes are put toward things that are supposed to benefit the taxpayers, the citizenry of whatever, country the government oversees, country, whatever, state, city, whatever it might be. So we can already see a system where you're putting money into a pool. It's being spent on things that are supposed to benefit you. You see what I'm saying? So universal basic income would come from the same pool of money, except it would just be money. It wouldn't be like a thing. It wouldn't be like roads or schools or firefighters or policemen. It would just be money handed to you. And now people are trying to think in their heads probably like, how can that work? If you put in money into a pool and then money's just coming back out, why don't you just keep your money? Okay, see, the whole point here is that it's basically redistributing wealth. And a lot of people are going to say something like, why would we want that? Super rich people worked for what they have. Why should anybody get what's theirs for free? All right, well, I will contest that with the fact that the way that these people, who control a lot of major industry and stuff, got their wealth was not in an honest way. There's a lot of economic tactic that really allowed them to, get to the positions that they're in. I just made a video talking about economic bottlenecking events. That's one example. There's just a lot of tactics, if you really understand how they got to where they are, that, you would see that they used to get into those positions. So we already have a tax bracket where they pay a lot more tax, right? Percentage-wise, because, they have a lot of money. And put it into this pool, this governmental pool, what you might call the budget of any given government. And, so that's where a lot of the, money for the universal basic income will be coming from. So obviously, if you're a super rich person, a small check every month does not mean much to you. So, you're probably going to be paying a lot more in taxes than you're going to get back in the form of universal basic income. You know what I mean? For the people that are really low on what I call the economic food chain, it's going to benefit them a lot, especially if they have no other means of, income. You know what I mean? And so they're going to be they might not be paying any taxes, but they're going to get that, and it's going to help them, survive in an economy that's currently dominated by a few players, and then that's about to be, overtaken by automation, I see it being a necessity in the near future. I don't see it being a luxury. I see some people are going to be out of jobs. There's no way to compete with these big corporations. So people are going to need some way to survive in this economy. They're going to need something. And, if the economy is going to be dominated like it already is by, a few players that control most major industries, then yeah, I feel like, and really considering the way that they got into those positions, I feel like it's more than reasonable to redistribute a little bit of that wealth. And if you really want to talk about it, I think there's a lot more that can be done to make a much more fair and just system. I would say more government intervention, you might say. And a lot of people, they have this ideal in their head talking about free market capitalism. If we had free market capitalism, we would have destroyed the planet by now. Government regulation is necessary. It is necessary. The way I say it is that the economy is a machine, and it's basically a mindless machine, and it has to be controlled. You know what I mean? And it's controlled through various tweaking, you might say. You can tweak that machine to create outcomes that you want, and it's an incentive-based machine. And if you create the right incentives, the economy will do what you want it to do and produce what you want it to produce. And up until now, I think there's been a lot of lobbying in government to get, the type of tweaking that, only certain people want so that they could benefit. And that's another way that, some of these dominators in the economy have gotten into the positions, that they're in today. So yeah, I think there's more that could and should be done than universal basic income. I think that's just a bare minimum, just to make sure that people can survive. With automation especially coming in. Really, the current state that it's in, the way that people got, the way that the economy got to what it is, with industries consolidated. With certain people, having so much wealth while other people are, struggling. I would say that was an unjust process. I would really I dare to say it's should be invalidated. And I think there should be, to some degree, a little bit more of a, remedy for the situation. And, a lot of people, a lot of people have this false hope of a free market capitalistic system. It doesn't exist. It hasn't for a very long time. There's always been some type of government intervention forever. You know what I mean? Free market capitalism is an illusion. It's not just going to work itself out like that. There's other types of manipulation that can occur that without government intervention, that's just like government intervention actually stops. And so people need to get that out of their head. This whole idea of free market capitalism, it's just not practical. And then people go to the other extreme, trying to say stuff like universal basic income is socialism. Well, look at how the government already works. Look at the process. Look at how it's funded. Look at what it does. It's like a business. And there's a lot of things that we put money into that we get as a benefit. There's streets, firefighters, police officers, schools, stuff like that. That's just how it's been run for a long time. And yeah, I think that you could say that those are socialistic programs, but we've already been having them for a long time, so universal basic income is just like another thing. Personally, I like the private sector. I like to see the market do what the market does and really just like minimally affect, the supply and demand functions of the market, to create positive outcomes. You know what I mean? Like minimally, affect the economic machine, I don't think it's a good idea for, there to be like, a bunch of socialized programs. The main reason for that is because, I'll tell you the truth, the government as it stands, the process through which, people are elected, I think I think it's a very shoddy process, and I think quite often we get people that are less than competent, in control of things. And so if a lot of things are, turned into, you might say government-run affairs, and the government's run by incompetent people, that's a bad situation right there. So I think, the more things out of the hand of government, the better. But at the same time, there is a time and a place for government intervention. There just is. There is a time and a place for socialized projects, and you might even say programs, So with that being said, universal basic income, I don't think it's a giant leap. I don't think it's a giant leap towards socialism. I think if it fits in the budget, we got to consider like how much of the budget it takes, and look at how much money is spent on, like pointless wars and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Make some cuts where it's appropriate. The whole point of taxes is so that there can be funding for things that actually benefit the citizenry. Okay. If money from that fund is being spent on things that don't benefit the citizenry, cut it. And that's where you'll make room for the universal basic income. A lot of people talk about, and rightly so, they talk about, the United States having to be competitive on a global scale. So, there's been tax cuts for the rich, so they might, bring their companies, to America, and there'll be more jobs. That's a real thing. I think, honestly, at some point in the future, going forward, there's going to have to be a lot more, international, I guess, synchronicity between, how global economic affairs are managed. You know what I mean? The current, individualization of every country, competing with each other, it's not practical, man. There's gonna have to be a global, and I'm not one of these globalist people. It has to be done in a competent way. And I'll tell you the truth, the most important thing is for people to understand this type of stuff and to vote for people that understand this type of stuff. Vote for people that are honest, that aren't going to sell out the economy to the highest bidder, you know what I mean, the lobbyist, and that will actually serve the interest of the constituents. That is so important. It's funny because, if you think of like a company, they have a good method to like produce the best leaders, you know what I'm saying, for that company. I like to say, like, if every employee of a company voted for who to be, running it, they probably vote for whoever said they were gonna, benefit, those workers the most. And sometimes that's just not what's best for the company overall, and it could actually, kill the company in some cases. And if you look at how politicians are elected, it's almost the same thing sometimes. People vote, and they're given all these promises by politicians, and sometimes, trying to implement, or I guess you could say, fulfill those promises, it can be very destructive. We often produce people that are not the most competent people, and we put them at the helm of, the most important organizations in the world. There's the economy, there's the economic machine, and then there's the political, sector that really affects that economic machine and really is almost like the controlling mechanism of the economy overall. And it's so silly to me how, there's a more like thorough process to, produce competent leaders in, like a smaller company than we have in, producing leaders for entire countries. You know what I'm saying? It's to me that's like the biggest flaw in our modern, like political / economic system, and so yeah, somehow I think that needs to be remedied, you might say. But with that being said, yeah, universal basic income, it's not a far leap from what we already have. Like I said, You pay taxes, you put it into a pool, into a fund. That fund is there, to, pay for, projects and things that benefit you as a citizenry. And, this universal basic income should hopefully fit in that budget, and like I said, if it doesn't, just make cuts where appropriate, And that's really as simple as it gets. It's not like it's just like some extreme measure. It's like if you understand how the government already works, the little, it's just like a company pretty much. It has revenue, it has money, and it decides how to spend that money. Hopefully for, the better, and it's really supposed to be, spent on things that benefit the citizenry, because it is the citizenry's money that is practically being donated, for whatever public works, I guess the, politicians see fit. But that's the thing, the politicians are supposed to, represent the interest of the people. So, it's really like people are donating money for things, for like these public works, you know what I mean? And it's all supposed to benefit, the citizenry. And so universal basic income as another policy, as another, public work of sorts, I think it's practical. It's going to be necessary in the future. Especially with how much automation is coming up. And I don't think it really, you can do the math. I haven't done the math, how much that's going to cost for however much, they're talking about giving out every month. But also you got to consider inflation. You got to consider the value of, the dollar, the cost of living, and that's affected by monetary policy, stuff like that. And that's something else that needs to be looked at and managed, you know what I mean? Overall, I'm telling you, we're going to have to move to a higher level, a higher organizational structure of management, And it's just the natural evolution of our system here. And so yeah, I don't think that universal basic income is a far leap from what we have today. And so that being said, take it as you wish. I hope this helps people wrap their head around it. And it's not an extreme measure. It's really not. It's, just make cuts where appropriate. There's a lot of things that I see just without even much examination where, money is being spent on things that really don't benefit the citizenry. It's like, it's politicians being irresponsible with your money. And, on top of that, people should really hopefully wrap their heads around this type of stuff and vote for people that will competently manage your money, and represent your best interest, and do good things with your money that you hand them willingly, through taxes. So, with that being said, hope this helps people wrap their head around the whole concept. It's imperative that we elect people that are competent and honest and trustworthy. It's literally, like the most important, organization in the world, the governments, because they control the economy overall. You know what I'm saying? And I just think it's ironic and almost laughable that, individual companies, produce better leaders than, we quite often do as the citizenry, for, the government. And when the government's just like so much more important, it's I would almost say it's ridiculous, but so that to me is the biggest flaw in our modern day system, in our modern political / economic system, is that we produce bad leaders by voting for them. A lot of people don't know who or what they're voting for, and they just vote willy-nilly, and next thing you know, you got some willy-nilly people in office, and they're selling out the government. They're doing favors, for the highest bidder, basically. And that is the biggest flaw I see in our current, like I said, political / economic system. So consider that, wrap your head around that, think about that, and hopefully this inspires people to make better choices as far as, who they're going to vote for. Okay, so that being said, hope this helps, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you for listening. I'm out of here. Stay safe, stay smart, and be awesome. I'm out. Much love.